You all set, Christine?
Yes.
All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. The Board of Selectmen, regular meeting, March 9th, 6 p.m. In attendance is myself, Mike Ergo, for Selectmen, Bob Carlson, Selectman, Nita Kincaid, Selectwoman, Christine Dias, Admin Finance for the town. First on the agenda is public comments on agenda and non-agenda items. We respectfully ask that public comments do not exceed 2 minutes in respect for everyone's time. And again, this should be time for public comments on agenda or non-agenda items. And we will, there won't be public comments throughout the agenda, and then we have one more opportunity at the end of the agenda.
Do you want me to facilitate since Bailey's not on yet?
Please.
Okay, so phone number ending in 3754, you are recognized.
Hi, this is Sean. I just wanted to say a few things about, I know tonight you've been tasked with making some drastic cuts to the budget that was previously submitted to the Board of Finance. I think it's, if I've done the numbers right, over $550,000 worth of reductions that they've asked you to make. Obviously it's going to be a time when you choose items that are absolutely necessary to maintain functions of town government and possibly eliminate some of the nice to have things. Along the lines of nice to have things, I'd like to bring up, I think you should have received an email from me today about some expenses that I have discovered in the Selectmen expenses budget that I consider that fall into this category of not absolutely necessary to maintain town functions. I was very surprised that a $564 Apple Watch was purchased, that another new cell phone, a $160,000 cell phone, was purchased this year, and we bought a custom jacket for the first Selectman as well. I don't think these things are necessary expenses. The townspeople expect their elected officials to be frugal and spend their money wisely. And I don't consider these necessary to fulfill the functions of a first Selectman. The Apple Watch is not necessary at all. We carry a computer on our cell phones and could do just about anything with it. I would probably guess that this isn't the first or second cell phone that we've purchased for the first Selectman. I'd be interested to know how many have been purchased so far since his joining the town government, and why in the world does the first Selectman need a custom jacket to wear when he has a vest that he could wear over his street clothes, his normal clothes, indicating he's a first Selectman and also providing safety when he's out roadside and so forth. So I hope you'll take a look at the expense budget, Selectman expense budget tonight. It's quite fat. We throw in things like networking events, staff recognitions, operating expenses. I don't know what operating expenses are, because the very next line we have office expenses. I don't know what the office expenses are, because we have town hall expenses as well. I think the Selectmen obviously need to look real hard at each and every line item, and to get the fluff out of this general government budget. Thank you.
Okay, I have number ending in 9339. Unmute yourself and go ahead.
Is that me?
It is you, Joe Gross.
Okay, thank you. Mike, I'm not gonna tell you what to do tonight. I think you guys got one heck of a job ahead of you. The only thing I'd like to ask you to do, if you would go, the line items you refer to, if you would refer to the line item first so that I could follow you. You know, my interest is in this stuff, and if you've done $550,000 cut, I think you and I are in the ballpark on where we gotta go. Mine don't agree with you completely like that, but we're not too far off. That's all. Just the line item so I could follow you, I would appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Tom Marsh, you're recognized.
Yes, hi, thank you for hearing me. A couple of quick things. First of all, I'm looking forward to hearing about where we stand in the budget process. And from what I can see, the undesignated fund policy that was posted looks extremely reasonable to me. I think you should put that in place immediately. I think that was great work. A couple of quick questions. If you can answer, great. If you can refer me to who can give me an answer, that would be fine too. On February 22nd, a resident brought up concerns that the new school had numerous plumbing concerns, notably toilet issues and bad tanks. I'd like to know if these issues have been addressed and at what cost to the town if it wasn't part of any warranty. And I'd also like to know that the rationale behind listing property rental of $19,500 as revenue for 298, but as from what I can tell and discussions with somebody out of the Board of Finance, they explained to me it was just a way of accounting for a portion of expenses. But as John Q. Public, I'm reading it as revenue, and to me that's just you know, for lack of a better term, math games. Not particularly a fan of that. So I'm asking if that could be removed so that it's not perceived as revenue by the town. Thank you.
I'm sure we'll get to the discussion about revenue when we go through the budget, Tom. So and as far as your question on the schools, I would refer you to the School Modernization Committee on that answer. I do believe that as far as I've heard, there is no longer that issue. But I don't want to definitively answer that question. I would refer you to the School Modernization Committee. They're the ones that are tasked still with making sure our schools that are in warranty are being taken care of.
Okay, if you could just tell me who the head of that committee is, that would be great.
Yeah, if you just go on the website, but it's Pam Patemry is the chair. You could just email her if you want, ppatemry@northstoningtonct.gov.
Okay, thank you.
Brian Rathbun, you're recognized.
Yeah, good evening. Since we're all in this together, that's what I keep hearing anyways. I think the recreation we spend an awful lot of money on recreation in this town. And I'm not sure if all the programs are filled up or if there's a lot of participants. We have a school that gives chances for the students to play, and they have sports, and some of them, I guess, from what I understand, go to Griswold to play football in Stonington. But in North Stonington, we have hiking trails, plenty of hiking trails. we have fishing, we have in the ponds, the lakes and the streams in North Stonington. We even have some areas that we can go hunting. And I'm just hoping that when you go through the budget, don't be afraid to maybe have to take some of those things out of the budget to make it come to be. Because like I say, we're supposed to be all in this together. I've been giving up and giving up and giving up. And I think that's one of the areas that everybody's scared to touch. But I think it's time that we really look and see how much of our money is going and where it's going. I guess that's about all I got to say for now. So thank you for hearing.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, Brett, you are recognized.
Hi, guys. Brett Mastriani. I just wanted to follow up. I brought it up quite a few months ago, but a resident that doesn't get on the computer at all asked about an update on the signage for the plaque at the elementary school with the correct names on it. I was wondering if there was any kind of update on that you might have, so I can let them know.
That was approved at the last school modernization committee meeting. So I would imagine that would happen soon enough.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, that looks to be our last public comment at the moment.
Great. Thank you, everyone. The first item on the agenda is the undesignated fund policy. This is set by the Board of Finance. I was asked to sign it. It's not something the Board of Selectmen sets, but I thought it would be prudent for the Board of Selectmen to look at it and probably give it a cursory approval if you are in favor, or if you do have feedback, we could certainly give our feedback to the Board of Finance if you chose to. So does the board have any feedback or discussion on the undesignated fund policy? Yes, go ahead, Bob.
I was just going to say, I was at all those Board of Finance meetings when it was discussed, and I thought they did a good job on it. I'm happy where it is now, and I hope we approve it. Thanks.
Nita, do you have any feedback?
I've read through it twice. I think it's reasonable, and we should go ahead and let it happen.
So I'd look for what I'd look for is a motion to direct the first selectman to sign the undesignated fund policy as presented.
So moved.
Second that.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0-0. Next item is it's appointment. So we talked about a couple of meetings ago appointing a committee specifically tasked with looking at reaching out to area education facilities about tenancy in the middle high school, the entire building, both wings. And we thought we would have members of EDC, Board of Ed, Board of Finance, and Planning and Zoning. And I'm happy to report that we have members from each who have indicated an interest in becoming members of this subcommittee. So this isn't going to be a committee, it's a subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen, so they'll just report to us. Bob indicated interest in being the liaison to this committee. So we've already put the charge forth of what this committee will do. The members who expressed interest are Jennifer Dayton, Nicole Porter, those are both economic development representatives, Stephanie Mastriani from the Board of Ed, Carolyn Howell from Board of Finance, and Pat Lewis from Planning and Zoning. I just want to make clear, the goal of the group is specifically to outreach to education facilities in the areas to help find tenancy in the building. It's not to reanalyze, decisions that have already been made. Like, we got to try to get somebody in there. And that was the point of trying to get more help. And have the realtor give them like a regular report on activity as well. So I did speak with the realtor. They're certainly willing to give that and very open-minded to suggestions from the group as well. So once the committee starts meeting, if I know when it is, I'll make sure the realtor gives a written report of activity. And if there's other information the group wants from the realtor, we can make that happen as well. So with that being said, is there any more discussion about this committee, or do you want to move to appoint as presented?
I'll move to appoint as presented.
Motion is appoint as presented. Do we have a second?
I just have a question. How often will they be reporting to us?
Well, I think we said on the charge that they were supposed to meet, I think at least like bi-weekly. There's a really short window on trying to get people in there. I think the Board of Finance was pretty clear, and, I don't disagree with, I think we want to try to have some resolution on if we're going to have tenancy or not within a couple of months. So I think they should meet bi-weekly and be very actively engaged in outreach. I think they should report to us at every one of our meetings.
Okay, that's what I was.
And I don't think they need to report to us. Bob can just report to us. He's the liaison. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Okay.
I think Bob should just, yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully this committee can meet on the off weeks that we're meeting, so, if we're meeting second and fourth, maybe they can meet first and third. I would suggest, just to get the ball off the ground, maybe to take one of the participants from the EDC to just reach out to them, Mike, and have them be temporary chair just to get the thing up and running until we can get together. But as we know, myself, Board of Finance members, Board of Ed members are in the middle of budget season, and Pat Lewis on planning and zoning, they've got quite a bit on their plate right this second. So if you can reach out to Jen or Nicole, once it's been approved, to just maybe formalize that first meeting, give them the contact information for the other 5 members, and maybe suggest a night that they can meet, since we have meetings on, obviously, Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays are tough at this point. So maybe Mondays, or that would be great. Then once we meet as a group, then we can discuss future meetings at that point and probably elect a chairperson and a secretary.
Yeah, that's great. I'll do that. So there was a motion to appoint. Is there a second? I'll second. And I'll reach out to Nicole and Jen to do that and make those suggestions, Bob, after the meet. I'll reach out to them tomorrow. All those in favor of the approval of this committee, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Subcommittee? Aye. Motion carries 3-0-0. Okay, budget. Big discussion. Obviously, the Board of Finance meeting, the positive was that, well, I think there was a couple positives, if I could just start with that. A, we got direction, though probably not direction that we were hoping for. And B, I'd like to say the Board of Finance is, I was very encouraged by the level of knowledge and really the just the understanding of not only where we're at, but just the understanding of really the situation and understanding the undesignated and understanding reval. And I just felt like there was a really good understanding from the Board of Finance. And having been here and pretty involved 10 years ago, which is what drove me to get involved in town, I was very encouraged by just the dialogue of the Board of Finance. And I know it's not easy to hear that kind of feedback. And I think all of the decisions that we're going to have to make tonight are going to be incredibly difficult. We have our charge. So without further ado, I think we start on page 1. Let's get through it. I'll start right at the top. So one of the things that was discussed, and I'll try to explain this so everyone can understand it. We had a revaluation. If we were to put a proposed property tax number based on the revaluation and based on the current mill rate, it would have been a huge increase to that number, but it would have basically levied additional tax on people. So the Board of Selectmen opted not to put any increase in there and to ask the Board of Finance what they thought we should do as far as putting a number in A100. And what was discussed was really to try to bring it back to where zero would be on that. So in other words, even though we did have an increase in values, we want to reduce that to and calculate that based on a mill rate that shows no increase at all, which is not unreasonable. That's a starting point for us to be at. So basically, that's at a mill rate of 27.4 versus what the mill rate is 29.5 right now. So what you see in the budget is collection of 15 million. Christine, am I right on that?
So in the budget that you see in front of you, it's 15,349,138. So for the revised mill rate of 27.4 at the new grand list number, the new line number will be 15,398,327. So that's an increase of $49,189.
So that what we're proposing to put in there is 15,398,327. So that takes into account the 8% increase in grand list, but it reduces that calculation based on a mill rate of 27.4 instead, which is kind of like zeroing it out basically, which is a conservative approach. So is there any other questions or discussions on that?
No.
Okay. All right. All right, so what other suggestions does the board have on page 1?
So it's revenue, so I have no other suggestions unless there's something new in revenue that I don't know about.
So I have a couple of suggestions based on feedback. I would like to, oh wait, that might not be on page 1, hang on. That's not on page 1, hang on a second. So in A323, we are very likely to get a grant for lake treatment. I'd like to increase that revenue line by 9,000 to bring it up to 15,000.
No, you want to increase it to 15,000. You want to add 15,000 to it, the other column, something else. So this would offset the expense that we have in the budget for the lake treatments for 15,000.
Right. So we have an expense in there, so this would be an offset to it.
What number is this? A323.
A323.
Oh, I see it. The other in 32.
Yeah, so other intergovernmental
Okay.
revenue is basically any grant sources that we don't definitively know which agency, so we put it here, or we don't know if we're going to get it year to year, so it may not be worth creating a line item. When we have repeated grants from an agency, we will create a line item, such as there's a 3.19 FEMA. So just history on the way.
Yeah.
I don't have many revenue changes. There's 5 that I'm going to suggest, but this would be one of them. I'll just go through the ones that I would suggest. The other one is it's another A323. The SHPO grant for the John Dean Gallup House. We would suggest a $20,000 grant for that. It's very likely that we're going to. I mean, we have monies to match that, so it would be foolish for us not to use the funds that we have budgeted and go for a grant. And we are nearly positive we'll get a grant in order to do work on the Gallup House because of the fact that we did the feasibility study on the Gallup House. So it's very likely that we would get a grant and 20,000 is the amount that I spoke with Juliet about that she felt was prudent to put in there. On A402, which is building official, we're looking for to increase those by 10,000. Zoning enforcement, which is A503. We're looking to increase that another 500 based on what we have collected. And planning and zoning, we also increased that another 500. So those are 5 changes on page 1, which I think are reasonable increases in revenue. There's nothing over the top or anything like that here. It's just, these are things that we think will definitely come to fruition. So I would motion that we make those 5 changes on page 1 to the budget and revenue.
Just one question, Mike.
Yes.
On the John Gallup House, we have 19,000, roughly a little over $19,000 left in the budget from this past year that hasn't been spent. Can monies that are already in the budget like that be used towards the $20,000 match?
So those monies that are in there, correct me if I'm wrong, Christine, but we haven't, have we still not spent out for the grant for the project that the feasibility study?
We haven't spent all of it out, so when that project's done, that's a $20,000 grant and a $20,000 expenditure. So we have, in the current budget, we have $10,000 for the house. So that money, since it won't be spent, can be used as a match for next year. That's why we have it in the capital accounts, that it can carry forward and not be exclusive to the current year.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
I made that motion. Was there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on the addition of those 5 revenue items? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 300. Page 2. I'll just mention on revenue, one other revenue item that I think we may want to suggest based on feedback we got. The Gallup House, it was brought up that we had revenue in there. We don't have anybody necessarily lined up. I think we were trying to be conservative on that number. I mean, I think we'll get more than that possibly, but who knows? I'd suggest that we remove the rental number from the Gallup House just because it's not carved in stone. That's $6,000 reduction of revenue.
I support that.
Okay. Motion to remove the $6,000 from A515. Second, anybody? So moved. Nita, second. Bob. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank
All right.
you.
Moving on, page 2. Suggestions, Board of Selectmen.
I've got none.
Anything on page 2, Nita?
I would say on the whole page, I would go, because it was brought up earlier in public comment, I would look at line item B 1.06 and motion to drop that by $3,000 down to $1,450.
B106.
B 1.06, selectmen expense. It's at $4,450. I motion that we, I would suggest at this point to drop that down to $1,450, so it's a $3,000 decrease.
Am I missing something? Is that already is at 14,450? You wanted,
We get it as 4,450 on mine.
Yep.
And I want to drop it down by $3,000 down to $1,450. So negative $3,000.
That's a motion from Bob. Is there a second on that? I'm not hearing a second. I would like to offer a little bit of an explanation based on the public comment. One item that was called out for, just to give some clarity, that I did purchase. I actually have a note in my file that I actually will purchase that item out at the end of my term, unless the incoming first selectman wishes to keep it. So I just want to make mention of that. It was an unusual expense, and I made sure that I had a note in the file when I bought it that way. Nita, do you have other suggestions on this page?
I had a question that I made a mark on again. What was the miscellaneous that was so huge there up top at the A5 dot, this is on the revenue side before you move forward. You see what I mean, the 138, and then it's down to 6,000. What's the, excuse me, it's not 6,000.
No, it is.
Yes, it is. Okay, so what was the miscellaneous? Miscellaneous what?
What line are you looking at, Nita?
5.20, A 5.20.
Oh, okay. Christine?
It was, in FY20, it was the Eversource credit for the middle high school project. In the current year, it's the Eversource credit for the elementary school project. And those were one-time sources of revenue, which is why they went into miscellaneous.
Okay, so that, we will not see that again unless we do another big project.
We will not see that again.
Thank you, thank you. That's good to know. Okay, thank you. Okay, so
Does the selectmen want to revisit the increases for the selectmen?
I mean, I would go flat like we have the last few years. It doesn't matter to me.
yeah. I'll go lower than flat, but you never will let that happen. So.
I mean, I don't agree with where it is anyway. Again, we're tasked with a very challenging task here, so. I don't think we're funding our selectmen or our first selectman at an appropriate rate right now. However, as we come to the end of this, we're gonna have a difficult time reaching zero. So I think we have to do everything possible to get there. So I'd look for a motion to flatline the 3 selectmen from this current year. Go ahead.
I don't know whether this is okay to raise this, but with the fact that it's not going to be you as the first selectman, and we have regularly heard from people that they don't think that this amount of money is necessary for the selectmen because of the other people we now have working here. So why are we putting in even more than this is being made right now? I just don't get this idea. People were talking about this is going to be just half days. We have a number of people now that know what they're doing, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, we're not on the same planet on that one, Nita. I don't think we're funding the first selectman's role appropriately as it is. I mean, I've talked about this and done a fair amount of research and turned it in last time. I mean, I'm open to anything you guys want to suggest. I think it's a bad idea to reduce this, certainly. I wouldn't want to reduce it because I think we want qualified people to step up. And I don't think reducing the salary is going to help garner more people to potentially step up and want the role. I mean, you just don't know. There could be retired folks out there that just, and if they want, they can give the salary back. I mean, anyone can donate their salary back if they want to. There's no reason that can't happen. I wish I was independently wealthy. I would have been happy to do that, but I'm not. So the best I could offer is just reducing any increase. And I don't have a problem doing that. It's pretty minor anyway.
So
And I
what,
would
just,
do that.
I'm sorry, Nita, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I just said, you said that you didn't need to raise it again for next year. And I said, yes, I would think at least that would be good. And it's not anything to do with who's sitting in the seat. It's who is thinking about how they're going to manage the town, kind of, I think.
So why don't we, because we have such a tough budget that we have to deal with, I think we're asking people to take hits. We're asking organizations and committees to accept the fact that they're not going to get the money they asked for. What if we drop the first selectman to 60 and the two other selectmen down to 2,500?
Sounds good to me.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'm pretty uncomfortable taking a pay cut half a term. I mean, that's challenging for me. But if that's what you guys want to do, that's fine. I don't think we should reduce the first selectman's salary. I was only suggesting that we just don't increase it if we're trying to make a tight budget. But I'm just gonna abstain from this anyway. So you guys just decide what you want to do.
Well, Nita, you didn't second on the selectmen expenses. So if you'd be willing to take down the selectmen expenses by $3,000, I'd be willing to take the cut on the selectmen and leave the first selectman where he is. But I don't think we can, we have to cut somewhere on this page and under the selectmen category.
I will do both of those things then. I just thought that going that low on money to be able to use down there, but fine, it's okay. Sorry, yeah.
So what motion are you making?
Go back to that one and first we'll do that one.
On the expenses?
Yeah, yep.
All right, so I'll remake that motion if that's possible. Then I motion to drop the selectmen expenses down to $1,450, which is a $3,000 decrease.
And I second it.
Okay, so we're back to the selectmen's expenses, which is B106. Further discussion on that. I think there's, out of this line, just so you understand, that will put us in a position where we probably will have to cancel a cell phone, I'm thinking, and certainly not have any sort of staff recognition. Not that we could do much of it this year anyway because of the COVID, but.
So Mike, we only have one. You have a cell phone, but myself and Nita don't have one. So what do you mean cancel that?
My cell phone comes out of there.
Christine's cell phone comes out of there too.
Why wouldn't Christine's phone come out of her budget?
That is my budget.
She doesn't have a budget.
Yeah, so anything, I'm just gonna speak, and I'm sorry if it's out of turn, but anything that is in B1 isn't just for the first selectman and the other two selectmen. It's for the admin finance officer, it's for the selectman secretary, it's for the grant writer, and it's for the accounting generalist. So that is our department, just like the tax collector is B6 and the assessor office is B4. This is our department. So things that are specific to our offices come out of B106 and 107 that were referenced earlier.
Just to make a suggestion, if you're looking to cut the fluff out, if that's what I heard earlier, if you want to take away marketing and sponsorship, networking events, and staff recognition, those amounts, I think they add up to like $1,850. That might be a reasonable reduction because then you just eliminate those items. But it's up to you guys. A motion and seconds on the table. It's up for discussion.
So I'll change my motion to say that a $2,000 deduction instead of a $3,000 deduction. So I would motion that we reduce this by $2,000 down to $2,450.
That's, I'm fine by that.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 300.
All right, so back to selectmen compensation. Nita, what do you want to do there?
Well, what we were talking about is leaving it at this year's rate, the 64,000, right?
Hmm.
948. And I say that we should do that.
So you're saying leave the selectmen's pay, leave it flat and take out the increases? Is that what you
Yeah.
said?
Is that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I will abstain from that. All right, anything else on page 2?
Mike, can you tell me on the grant writer, just a quick overview on, I'm sure he's done well, he's brought some grants. Can you just look a quick overview on the grants and what we received and the benefit of having him in that position or her in that position?
I can. Yeah, just give me 1 second here. So we have been awarded $320,302 in grants. We've been declined $9,900 in grants, and we have pending $91,140 in grants. That doesn't mean we're going to take all the monies we've been awarded. One of those grants was substantial. It was for the electric truck, which we have not moved forward at this time. But obviously, given those numbers, it's an incredible investment for the town.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just have a clarifying question. So we only made a change to the first selectman, not to the second and the third selectman?
No, we went down to
motion- It was all the selectmen.
Yep.
I missed it.
It was flat from this year. Anything else on page 2? All right, may come back to this, but for now, let's move on. Page 3.
The town attorney, with the, which is B 8.00, went up quite a bit. Could we leave it at the 30,000? Why did it jump up 4,000 more?
We added that in for upcoming labor negotiations, but we can certainly remove it and try to control the cost as best we can.
I mean, you know better about negotiating and how it goes, but I
think we included it because we felt it was a prudent action, but I think we can reduce it and do our best to not have as attorney's fees. And again, if we have to go to appropriation down the road because attorney's fees have exceeded it, or do a transfer of some kind, if we have to towards the end of next year, we can always look into that.
that would be just $4,000 away from it.
Is that a motion?
Yes, please.
I'll second.
Further discussion? So that puts B8 at 30,000 from 34. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 300.
Mike, I would make the motion that we look at B901 travel recognition, which I am all for raising under the conditions, but because of the direction we've given on the budget and we have to cut somewhere, I would recommend we brought that back down to $5,000 to where it was last year.
Is that a motion?
I motion, yes.
Second. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
My thinking there, Nita,
I'm
I know
sorry.
you don't agree with me.
Are you, sorry, Nita, are you against?
Not supporting it, no.
You're opposed? All right, Nita's opposed. Motion carries 2-1.
That's fine.
Go ahead, Bob.
No, I was just gonna say to Nita, I knew that where she's coming from on that. I'm thinking that if something happens down the road and we need to go back to the Board of Finance, we can, but we've got a lot of lines like these happening in the budget and our hands are pretty much tied. We've given direction by the Board of Finance and we have to make those tough decisions. And that comes under the idea of almost like an insurance policy. But I mean, we can go back to the Board of Finance if needed, so.
Okay. Yep.
Anything else on page 3?
I don't see it on here, Mike, but where's the one for the tax collector and the extra postal, because we're giving out envelopes to have people return their taxes? Is that on this page or is that on a different page?
No, that's the tax collector 6.02.
All right, I'll wait till you get 6.02.
Yeah.
Oh, good. That was the big increase in expense, right?
Yes, but I don't have an exact figure on that.
But I think the big part of that though was the envelopes we're sending out with the tax bills, correct? That people were putting the money, taxes in the envelope and then dropping it off in the box or mailing it in. Up until then, we never did that. So I think we can go back to not doing that. And have people just.
What line and what page is that, Christine?
Page 3, line 6.02, office expenses for the tax collector.
Oh, at the top, 6.02, okay. You want to flatline that, Bob, back to, what do you want to put, what do you want to do?
I guess we don't have the exact number, Mike, because it's not showing an adder. It's just, it was explained to us that the reason that it's so high is because of those envelopes. I don't know what portion of that 9,000 is due to the envelopes that we put in the with the tax bills.
That there is no increase to that. That is the current year's budget.
What's the number that is in?
6.02.
6.02, oh, back there, okay, thank you.
Christine, can you explain that?
Can I explain what?
You just said there's no increase for that. That's the current year's budget. What do you mean?
The budget is $9,000 in the current fiscal year, and it is projected to stay at $9,000 for next year. There's no increase. We can't flatline it, is what I'm saying. It's already flat.
No, I'm not saying flatline, but what portion of that is the envelopes that we've added that weren't there? There's going to be an expense to that. So what was that expense to add those envelopes to the tax bills when we sent them out?
I do not have that detail.
I thought the tax bills, when they went out, were all in the same envelopes this time and not so.
Yes, so they're talking about the addition of the pink envelopes to send them back in.
Right.
But we had an additional cost because we got the bills out late, so
Right.
QDS sent them out for us.
Yeah,
So I think that may have balanced.
okay.
Let me see if I can find an email from Karen that had that, hold on.
I'm just going to step away while you're looking that up. I'll be right back.
It's looking at like that's about $250.
That's it? Okay.
Yeah, we have to pay a lot to get the bills printed. So,
All right, I thought it was gonna be significant, so I don't need to go there.
Anything else on page 3?
Like, just a comment, if I could, on a prior public comment.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So on the rec program, it was mentioned by one of my good friends in town that he thought we should look about cutting back on recreation. And here's my feeling on that is, so how many times do we hear, what do we get for our taxes? And if you measure it by full-time police stations, full-time firemen, trash pickup, you're right, if you measure it that way, but when you measure it a different way with open spaces and, as he said, trails and fresh air and neighbors who care and a great school system, recreation also falls into that. And I think that towns with really good rec departments and good senior centers and a good school system attract people to your town, and they make the quality of life that much better. So you can't always measure what you get for your taxes by the way it's measured in other towns. I mean, I won't mention a town, but there's towns around here that have full-time police, full-time fire, and trash pickup, and I wouldn't want their crime rates. I wouldn't want their school systems. So I think we've had a tough go. I think Tom's done a good job in spite of the fact that we've had COVID, but that's going to bounce back. Before COVID hit, we had one of the best rec departments in the state. I wouldn't mind somewhere down the road exploring, kind of combining that with the senior center. But as far as this budget goes, I have to disagree on that, on cutting this, because I think that's one of those things that our taxpayers do get for their taxes is a good rec department. So that's all I wanted to say on that.
But, and I agree with what you said, Bob, but the money that's in here, because I had this conversation with Christine, is the parents are spending this money.
Right, there's revenue that offsets most of this. Every program that they have has children in it that offsets the cost. So really, basically, what you're paying for as a taxpayer is the rec building and the rec director. Most of the programs are paid for by the people, and the people that run the programs are paid by the income from the program. So
We're not paying it, it's the people that are using it are paying it.
a lot of it, yes. But you always have to have somebody run it. I mean, it doesn't run itself, so.
Very good points, everyone. I don't disagree with any of it. And Bob, you made me think that I skipped over an item on page 2 that one of the public commenters asked about, which was the Board of Education Center line for revenue. Just to explain, all that line represents is the Board of Education, which is the central office, superintendent. They are using a portion of 298 Norwich Westerly Road. So they're, in this year's budget, instead of charging them any sort of rental fee, which we did this year, and we only did that this year because we weren't really sure, it was so new how it was all going to work out. We gave them kind of a bottom of the barrel number to help offset the costs of the building of $1.98 a square foot. This budget we're putting in there, they pay 13% of the utilities and maintenance for the space. So that's what that $19,500 number represents. It's just, they're just paying for their portion of the utilities for that building. So that revenue line should be in there. So, yes.
Like a comment on that. So I think
Sure.
that what, and maybe I misunderstood and maybe you're getting it exactly what he meant, but I think he meant was the fact that the money's coming from the Board of Education, which again is funded by the taxpayer. So we're basically funding the Board of Education, then turns around and gives money back to the town. So I think he's questioning whether it's truly revenue or if is it just money that goes to the Board of Ed, then goes back to the town, and goes back to the, it goes back in the undesignated fund. So I think that was at least that's what I got from his comment.
Yeah, I think you're right. We could just not even have anything in there, or we could just tell the Board of Ed to just pay for the whole bill and we'd pay them for the excess. I mean, it's really, but I think it's important if you are a tenant somewhere that you have some sort of responsibility for the spate. You know what I mean? Like they're the ones that we're not in really even in the building. So I think this was just a fair arrangement to just make sure that there was some level of an arrangement in place.
Well, I
So-
think if they carry an expense line in their budget, which we'll see tomorrow, we have a lot of things in our revenue that are offset by expenses and vice versa, like we just talked about the rec department. So
That's right.
but you have to put it somewhere just to log it so we know what it is. That's all.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to move on to page 4. I think we're done with page 3. Page 4. We have suggestions on page 4.
Oh, I did have a question about, B1604. I didn't know that the website annual fee for the rec company was $3,135. That's a high.
It's not high because they process all of our credit card charges.
Oh,
So the rec website, not only that's how people register for the programs, that's how we promote our programs, that's how we track all of our rosters, and it's also our credit card processing
okay,
for registrations.
okay.
So we save money by keeping that all together rather than having another
Everybody
company
doing
take care of
pieces.
the credit card part and then having them do the
I got it.
registrations.
I got it. I give up.
It sounds like a lot on paper, but when you think about
Right.
everything that goes into it,
Yeah.
it's a good value.
Okay, fine.
Sorry, Mike.
No, that's okay. Thank you. Anything on page 4?
Mike, are the town insurance and the medical insurance numbers that are listed, actual quotes, or is that just a guesstimation of where they might be going with those numbers? So I noticed on the Board of Ed, they were carrying a 0 increase on their, I think they had a 0 increase on their medical insurance, but I'd have to go look. I thought I heard that at one of their meetings.
These are right now, I don't think we've gotten actual numbers yet, so it's estimates, and we pretty much every year put in what we assume the possibility is that could come in better.
Mhm.
Christine, is that accurate?
So the town insurance line, we got an actual from Kerma of a 5% increase on that. The medical insurance, I followed past practice of the town for the increase on that, because we don't get our new numbers until October. So
Right.
that's our renewal. And we have a different medical insurance provider than the Board of Ed has, so that's why theirs could be different than ours.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else on this page?
No.
Page 5?
Do we need to leave the B2206 North Stonington Education Center at the $100,000? Are there any other opportunities, or is it just a?
Neither. I think we might have, I'm sorry, Mike, did I stop you?
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that last week when we cut it from 150 to 100, we're taking a chance. I mean, we're all assuming that we could fill those buildings, and we're gonna try our hardest. Being on that subcommittee, I'm gonna work hard with those other members to try to get bodies in those buildings. But to just not put that money there, that's coming back to bite us on the butt this year, because we took out money last year. And now we're seeing expenses up against that. So I would hate to lose that number. I mean, it's already pretty low.
You made me see it, yeah.
Other discussion on this page, page 5?
The coordinator here, now the coordinator here is Tim, is that correct?
What
Jim,
line?
Excuse me, Jim.
B25.00, that is the IT coordinator, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Jim.
And, Jim,
Yes.
so
That is a 2% contractual increase by the union.
Okay, thank you for letting me know that. Okay.
I think on that same page, on the charity lines, I think I brought this up before, and I know it's tough during these times because they work so hard and they're on the front lines and working with the best they can. But I think that in all fairness to our taxpayers, that I would go flat with last year's numbers across the board on the, starting out with the Pawtucket Neighborhood Center, going all the way down to the line 23.17.
What?
Just the one we cut in a large way last week.
Okay.
That would be about a $7,300 reduction if we did that.
I think they all serve our taxpayers, and they're probably serving more taxpayers than ever right now. So is that a motion, Bob?
I'll motion that we drop down those lines from 23.01 down to 23.17 to last year's figures.
Is there a second? There's no second. Anything else on this page? Any other discussion?
The office expenses that's not the office expenses, but I'm trying to get the number for you here. 32. B2502, digitized maintenance.
Yes.
What exactly is that? And
So-
how do you figure?
It's itemized underneath, so all the following 6 lines are the
Okay.
specific software that make up.
Are the ones that are for that?
Yeah,
Okay.
so what we did a few years ago is we moved a lot of the computer software expenses out of the individual departments
Right,
and combined them into information technology. So this includes software for the tax collector, software for the assessor's office, land uses software, and then general software like the website for the town. So those are all combined. The increase for that is only $1,275, and that is from quotes that Jim received from our vendors.
okay, thank you. That's very helpful. Okay,
And same thing with his professional services and licensing, the next one.
okay. Okay,
What is the feeling about removing the first selectman from the pension?
right.
That would be,
We're going backwards.
it's B2006. It's on this page.
Okay,
I
sorry.
see it.
Just for the benefit of those who are listening, the pension program for the town is not like pensions for the state. We don't have some long-term obligation on our pensions. We fund it year to year, and it's mostly contractual. With an amendment to the pension plan, we could remove the first selectman from the pension.
What line is that, Mike?
It would just be a reduction to B2006. It's just the pension line.
Oh, sorry.
It would represent about a $6,625 reduction.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that.
I don't either.
So there's a motion, would you make a motion to remove the first selectman from the pension program? And we'll have to make an amendment to the contract for next year, but we'll remove the funding for it anyway.
We didn't say that. Is that what you meant, Bob, that we wanted it to disappear?
I don't mind removing. I mean, I think it takes you 5 years to be vested, which means you have to go 3 terms as the first selectman. Since,
I see.
so chances are we're putting money away for something that's not gonna come to fruition in a lot of cases, so I'm not opposed to taking it out.
Okay, I'm okay with it too then, yeah.
You want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to remove the pension, the first selectman from the pension fund.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 300.
Hmm. Hmm.
What about, I guess that's good for now. At least, you guys have anything else on page 5 for now? May have to take another sweep after we understand what we're doing. Page 6.
I got an updated, estimate from the, resident troopers for their amount, and it is a decrease. So line B 26.04 is going to be reduced by $14,160.
Good.
That's good news.
So if one of you wants to make that motion, it can be efficient.
So it'd be a reduction to the line of $14,160. That's B 2604.
Is that a motion? If it is, I'll second it. Or I'll
Yeah, I'll make it.
the motion.
That's made by me, seconded by Bob. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Other items on page 6?
I would, on 26, B 26.06, civil preparedness operating budget. I wouldn't take it down by much, but I would probably just leave it at $5,000, which is a small increase over last year.
What line are you on? I'm sorry.
26.06.
Okay, that long line downward. Okay, got it.
But on the main number needed was 4860 plus an increase of $1,715. And all I'm saying is to increase it by $140 and making it even 5,000 and decrease the balance.
Mhm.
You make that motion, Bob?
I am.
Second.
So for the minutes, that's a reduction of $1,575.
Correct.
Further discussion? I would just say I'm not really, comfortable reducing that line. But I understand the situation we're in, so.
I get it. Unfortunately, I think we're gonna go through this and have to go through it again. So it's tough. It's a tough night to do this. I get it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm opposed. Motion carries 2-1.
Mhm.
Anything else on page 6?
Nope.
Page 7?
Okay.
So I think we need to talk about the per diem for the fire company. I am for the second per diem. I think I've said that on more than one occasion, and I did drop it down. I motion we dropped it down from $60,000 per person down to 55,000. But I'm afraid it's gonna be one of those areas that when we go back to the Board of Finance, if we're not down low enough, we're gonna have to go back and cut it then. So I would suggest that I motion that we stick with the one per diem, but raise the amount to $60,000 for that one per diem. As it was 50,000 last year. I would make it 60,000 this year and have the one spot. I prefer the two spots, but I think we have to do something.
I think we're gonna struggle to get through this budget with that line at all, to be honest with you, to get to zero. But we can start there and regroup and see where we're at. The only thing I would say is that there's the possibility, and I don't want to give false hope, but there's, with the new funding that's coming out, with the rescue package that's coming out, I was on a call today, and it sounds like, towns are going to get money, and they're going to get it over a 3-year period. And I asked the question from somebody that's on there, and again, we cannot count on this because it is not signed yet, but it sounds like this might be something where we could potentially use some of those funds to fund something like this if it's unbudgeted. So that's kind of like a glimmer of hope. If we can't put it in here, we might still be able to, have it through other funds that come through. But again, there's no guarantee on that. I don't know, Bob, do you want to make a motion?
I'll motion that we move away from the 2 per diem and go back to the 1 per diem, but raise the amount to a $60,000 fee, $60,000 income for that line item.
So the
$10,000 increase over last year.
So 10,000 more than last year. So proof FY 21 was 50. You're suggesting we go to $60,000 on that line. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So that's your motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
All right.
Motion carries.
So that's a reduction then, right? For a $50,000 reduction on that, because that was at 110,000 in the budget.
Yep.
But I can bet that if anything's going to come back, it's going to be this one.
Well, we have we're still got to get through this budget, and I think we need to calculate where we're at because our charge is 0. So I think we're demonstrating that we're looking at every line. There's no line that's untouchable, and it's not like we're trying to just take big amounts here. We're taking little ones here and there. So,
Right.
Other page 7 items.
On line 2710, B 2710 town property maintenance, I would motion we drop that line down by $7,500 down to an even 10,000.
And this is the line that's right now is 17,500.
Yes.
It was approved at 7,500, 2021. So
It's showing a $10,000 increase, so I'm just saying that.
yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Drop
I'll
it down to
second it.
2,500, so, yep.
You want to just keep it at 7,500?
Yeah,
that
let's
what
keep
your
it,
motion is?
let's keep it at 7,500, and I motion that we take line item 27.10, leave it at last year's number of $7,500.
I second it.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
All right.
Nita, you're in favor? Yes, you're in favor, Nita?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I didn't hear you. Motion carries 300.
Raise my voice.
It's hard on Zoom.
No, it's a speaker. Sometimes that doesn't pick you up. 7, anything else on page 7?
2711, B 2711. It says increase town property and buildings to maintain reinstate part-time employee position.
Oh, yeah.
Christine, on that part-time employee position, do you know what that number is?
Let me pull up one thing from him, hold on.
We are saving a lot of money on oil
Yeah.
as I put my coat on.
on our part.
Is that a joke, Nita?
Yes, no, but I am cold.
Oh, this one's terrible. It's in our folder. Sorry, guys. Okay, so that looks like 17,160 in his breakdown spreadsheet.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that that's something the town can't afford right now, so we do have some additional buildings to maintain, even if the, we do inhabit the old school buildings to be the outside work that has to be done. They will be paying cab fee on that will help, but I think that, I'd like to take line B 27.11 and, make it $10,000 and decrease that line by $30,961.
So that's not just the part-time person, that's reducing that even further.
Correct. It'd be a small increase over last year. It'd bring it from 8580 up to $10,000. Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, I think some of these changes, so you're making that motion, is there a second? I'll second it. I think some of the changes speak to, in my mind, Bob, you know, when you talk about reducing the town property maintenance and we talk about reducing this line, the urgency that I'm committed to on getting that building taken care of one way or the other. You know, and whether that means somebody has tenancy in this building and is picking up all these costs, which is the goal,
Mhm.
you know, I think that's fine. So I think this just speaks to the fact that we have to get something done with the building. So, and I think that's where most of these costs are. So I have no problem with it.
So we're going to, what would it please? What did you want it to end up as?
To make line B 2711 as a flat $10,000 budget line.
So that's gonna be a reduction of $30,961 of what's proposed for
Correct.
the minutes.
Correct.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. On B 2903, I think we can reduce that by 1,000. That's senior center.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna propose that we reduce that by 1,000. I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anything else on page 7? Page 8? Anything on page 8?
Looking. Nope.
So in operating, affordable housing, they have an increase there, but they really haven't met. At least not often enough to have it's that I've seen a plan. So I would suggest that we reduce B 3409 by $1,000.
Agreed.
That's a motion. Is that a second, Bob?
Second.
Further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 300.
Mike, I think we need to go back and look at, when we look at these pages, we're not gonna get to 500,000 by 1,000 here and 1,500 there, as we all know, so.
I mean, I'm not sure where that 5,000 number 500,000 came from.
I thought you said
So
it. Somebody said it.
it was
was it
public
you?
comment, but we haven't said that number.
Oh,
So I don't-
okay.
I'm not sure that's a number that exists.
The increase in the general government and the capital is about that. That's where that number comes from.
The two, yeah.
Is that
Okay.
including, so that's including stuff where we have to pay, like yeah. It's capital, including the stuff we have on lease, the lease payments is including that, Christine?
Well, we
So
haven't, I'm sorry, we haven't
talked.
talked, yeah, no, we haven't talked about capital yet. So I mean, I
No,
think
no,
there's
but when she
areas,
says that number of 500,000, obviously
Yeah.
we're obligated on some contractual obligations on anything we did with with lease agreements, and we also have obligations on anything we did with the union, so.
no, but what that 500,000 number represents is government operating. We had proposed $344,000 in increase, and in capital, we had proposed 210,000 in increase. So basically, those two numbers need to be zeroed out. So we can take capital that, I think we should go through capital, see how much we decrease it, and that actually could offset some of the operating where we have some contractual stuff. There are contractual obligations in capital as well for some leases, but those we obviously can't zero out. We don't have to zero out capital. Capital last year approved was 320,000. So what our charge is to get it below get it to $320,000 or less in capital. That would be zeroing it out. Less would be better, obviously. Why don't we go through capital?
We go to capital and double back.
Oh, we are still on the page, Nita. Capital starts on page 8. So are there other things on page 8 you wanted to talk about before we get into capital?
Yes, wait a minute, did I mark something?
Go ahead, take your time.
Okay. Okay, no, it's fine. All right, we're on C. That's okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
So in capital, page 8 of capital. I think that there are things here that we, in more than other areas, if we had to go for appropriations on stuff, this makes more sense to me. I don't like the appropriation approach when it comes to the regular budget, the operating budget. It doesn't make any sense. I think if we know about it, we should be budgeting for it. But capital are things that we can put off if that's what we want to do. It's what that's what we've been charged to do, seems like every year. It never seems to be.
I'll make a motion to get us started if you'd like.
Please.
I motion that we remove C1.19, $55,000 pickup truck for now, for this year.
I would not second that. I would counter that discussion. That was actually something I thought we could wait and talk about afterwards, but apparently you think that's the worst thing. Maybe,
Well, it's
because
the first thing, as we're going down the list, it's the first.
I was thinking we could talk about leasing that truck to get the number down, to be honest with you. I think there's other areas we can cut capital and make a big difference.
Want to come back to that? You want to come back to that one?
Yeah, if we could, if that's all right. There was no second, so if that's okay.
We'll come back to it.
I'd say C109, which is the dump truck refurb. I think we could remove that.
Oh, yeah,
That's $10,000.
Okay.
yeah.
Is there a motion to remove it?
I'll motion to remove it.
And I'll second it.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It seemed like there was not really too much interest in the C304. So versus an increase there. Town building maintenance.
Mhm.
We could just keep that at the 15,000.
Yeah,
Okay, so we
Take-
drop it by 5,000.
1,000, basically.
Yeah, it was approved 20, but if we just reduce it by 5 back to 2020 numbers.
So I'll make that
Yeah.
motion to reduce lines C 3.04 town building maintenance back to 15,000.
Second,
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
uh,
Motion carries
Now-
300.
Hmm.
now what about the turnout gear? With the 21,000?
So I think they requested an increase of $6,000 on that. I think if you want to just, I think they have a cycle. I know they have a cycle on trying to replace it, but I think that was trying to get a little more aggressive on the replacement if we want to just keep it at what it was. Which would have been, approved 2021 would have been 15,000.
Right. Is it because they have more people now? I wondered.
Well, they do have the per diems as well, so
Do we think that they, I mean, I'd like not to spend that on it, but
you want to leave that and talk about it after we have a calculation as to where we're at?
do that. Let's do that.
What about C335 farmhouse repairs? That was an increase of $5,000 from last year.
Well, I would like to keep it, but can we leave that for a little bit longer and see where we're at?
Sure. Unless there's, hang on, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, let's see, what is this? This is C321. Yeah, C321, the POCD. We do need to put money aside for that, but I'm suggesting that we put aside half of that, 15,000.
I would agree with that, Mike.
So a motion to reduce C321 to 15,000 versus 30.
Second.
Okay,
Second from Bob. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
I,
Mike, on C 3.35, the farmhouse, 1750 farmhouse.
Yep.
So if we have, I think Christine said we have about 10,000 left in that line item. We need at least another $10,000 to cover us on a grant. So that would be $20,000, and if we got the grant, we'd have $40,000. So I think we should decrease that line item down from 15 back to 10.
That's a motion.
Yes.
Second. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I,
It is opposed. Motion carries. C335 reduced down to 10. Anything else on page 8?
How about on land acquisition?
So as part of the packet, you did see a letter from Chairman Ricker about his unhappiness of he and his commission that this was reduced in the first place. I just mentioned that because it was part of the packet that you received. I
I
think
saw
it's
it, I saw the letter.
Publicly part of the packet as well.
No, so
What's
I
your-
I'm just gonna ask if you had any feelings, either of you, as far as that number, that's all. Because I did see the letter, that's why I brought it up.
I don't like that we even decreased it. I'd like to increase it. But
How much money does he have in the bank already, though?
72,000.
72,000. But we've not funded it for the last, this will be the third year. And the whole point of this was to try to, save for a future need that we may have. And I know we don't have a future need, but you don't know when a future need may appear. And I think, I don't like the approach that we've made with the budget in general, with not saving for certain things. And this is one that for the last couple of years, we really have kicked down. I don't think can't stand that kick the can down the road analogy, but it's not prioritizing something that was important. We had originally proposed in this budget for C315 $30,000. I'd like to see that at least back up to the 10 that we're supposed to be doing every day. In fact, I'll make a motion that we increase that by 2,000. No second.
I'll second it.
Second. Further discussion on it? All those in favor? Aye. So it's increased up to 10,000. Motion carries 300. Anything else on page 8? All right. I don't know if I'm happy to mention this now. Just before we move on to the next page, C119, Bob, you started with that, the truck.
Mhm.
We did get lease numbers on leasing it. A 3-year lease on this would require us to budget $20,000 over 3 years instead of 55,000. Obviously, there's a cost, there's interest fees or whatever, but I think it's it is important for the town. I'd rather see this remain in the budget based on the highway foreman's recommendation. So I would propose that we decrease that line by 35,000. So we budget 20,000 for a 3-year lease on the F-250 pickup. I'd make that motion.
I would second that motion.
Further discussion on that? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 300. Moving on to page 9.
I motion on C3.47 that we cut the financial software out of the budget.
Financial software for $60,325.
Is there a second?
And what is the financial software for?
Susan and I.
Pardon?
That's the software that's going to transition us on the same software as the school. And it also allowed us to move on from OpenGov. So we do have a savings for a reduction in OpenGov, which make this number a little more palatable. Bob made a motion. Is there a second?
A second to do this, is that
To
correct?
remove it, yes.
His motion was to remove that line.
Move it.
Yes.
He wants to remove the 60,325.
We can't cut it down. It's either remove it or leave it, neither.
I tried to reach out to them to see if we could get on a payment plan for it. I didn't hear back, so I have nothing to report. I feel it's very important. I think whoever's sitting in this seat next year is going to be very thankful that we have made this move. I think it makes it a lot easier to collaborate and reconcile. We don't know, but from what everybody said, it's pretty good software. Christine talked about it last time, but it gives a lot of functionality and some other reporting that's going to be helpful. It'll make certain jobs more efficient. At least that's the hope with it.
So Bob, you don't think we should do this, but you do agree that we were getting rid of the last one, so.
Right, so even if this wasn't on the board, I was never a big fan of OpenGov to begin with. I know we put it through for 3 years ago, whatever it was. So I think we can go a year with the way we're going now with the reporting services and the accounting services that we use now, and then look at maybe putting this in next year. But I think that's, again,
Can I just ask what I would be building the budget in if I don't have OpenGov?
how do we build the budget before OpenGov?
Excel. It was an Excel spreadsheet, and
All right, so let's say
it was
that
painful.
to get through 1 year, I would rather spend the 13,000 on OpenGov and delete and put that back in and take the $60,000 of this out to get through the year.
Well, you made a motion to remove it. There's still no second, and we keep talking about it. Is there a second on removing it? There's no second.
So move on.
It remains.
On C 3.48, North Southern Education Center furniture, I motion that we remove that from the budget. I've walked through the school. There's a lot of
Second.
furniture in that school, so.
Second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nita, are you in favor?
I said aye, yes.
Okay.
Aye.
Motion carries.
A motion on C 3.52, Department Review Consultant. I was actually the one to bring this back to life in a discussion a few meetings ago. That was before we met with the Board of Finance and we're given such tough marching orders. So my feeling is now that I changed my mind. I think we need to remove it from the budget. I do think it would be helpful for us, but I think we have to remove it. So my motion to remove it.
And I second that.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 300.
Okay. Now where do we go?
On C4, I'm gonna recommend that we remove the 15,000 from revaluation this year. There's still monies left there that will help us saving for our next revaluation. So I'll motion that we remove the 15,000 from C4.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Water infrastructure, C351. By the same token, as I was talking about with the potential for funding for fire, EMS, or police with the rescue package that's coming out, I was told on the call there's a possibility there might be funds for sewer and water as part of this package. Again, it's not known, but not knowing and really not having an immediate need, I think this is the kind of thing that can just go to a town, go to the Board of Finance if we have an appropriation. Or just work within the budget we have with attorneys. Because I mean, really, that was the only thing I was thinking about for it, but so we can remove C351. I'll make that motion.
I second it.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. C349, flight and mapping. This is very, very important. However, I would suggest that we just reduce the amount. This was not going to get us flight and mapping this year anyway. It's a savings towards getting us flight and mapping. I would think we should cut that in half. We'll just put it in there for 7,500. So reduce it by 7,500. C349, I'll make that motion.
That's not half, Mike. Half of 13 is 6,500.
No, it's already getting late. Thank you, Bob, for the math correction. 6,500. Sorry about that.
I just wonder if I was paying attention, right?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, 6,500. I'll motion that.
I second it.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mike, we're gonna come back through this one more time? Is that what you're saying?
I think we should get a tally when we're done and talk to Christine about where we're at. In fact, unless you guys have anything else super pressing, maybe we should do that right now.
I just want to ask one question, and that's back to, of course, the 1750 house and the $20,000. The $20,000 that we were given for the grant, none of that is coming to us at all, you know.
So Nita, this is a new
This is a new-
$20,000 that would use the 10,000 that's in this year's budget and the potential 10,000 in next year's
Oh,
budget to
that.
be matched to.
Oh,
So so if we leave the 10 in this upcoming budget, we'll
right,
have 20,000 in that bank account
right.
to use to then get a matching grant from SHPO for 20,000.
If SHPO likes what we've done.
If SHPO likes what we've done.
Okay, all right, okay. I was wondering where all this was going to come from. Okay, all right. So without being able to spend this $10,000 this year, we will have to find some money for some of the other work that needs to be done in there.
Yeah, we'll find it.
So yeah, I mean, the point of that is that you'll have 20,000 going into next year, and with the SHPO grant that Juliet feels very confident we'll receive, we'll actually have 40,000 to get a substantial amount of work done. So it really makes a lot of sense to double our money for grants. That's the point of having the grant writer. So
Ready March.
Yeah, okay, all right, okay,
So in 3-4 months.
all right.
Christine, you need a few minutes to tally, or have you done it as we gone along?
As we go along, I just want to make sure there's nothing else in Selectmen's Capital, because that's the last proposal I have to finalize. So if you guys are good, I just need to do one thing.
Yeah, take your time. I'm gonna grab some water. I'll be back in 1 second.
Areas of general government, so. I brought my calculator today. Okay,
Okay,
so the new general government operating number is $5,325,000 89, so 5325089. And the new capital number is 376,578.
So how much more do we have to shave off from operating and, or how much more do we have to shave off in total, Christine?
272,848 to get a net zero.
272,848. So we have another 272,000 to take away.
Yeah. I don't know why I sound so enthusiastic about that, sorry.
Just to keep you entertained.
All right.
Hmm.
You guys have things that you hadn't discussed that we want to go back to? So I have some thoughts. Okay. Now, it's all a matter of how you guys want to think about this. Again, I was on this call today, and I'm putting stock in this rescue funding that's coming out. But the way it was described on the call is that items that were not budgeted for are items that you can spend this funding on that you're going to get. Now, let me just preface it by saying, if this doesn't work out this way, it's not like we can't go for an additional appropriation. Okay, so I'm not guaranteeing that anything's going to work out this way. I'm just telling you that I was on this call today. There's another call tomorrow with Blumenthal and Murphy are having calls tomorrow, and this was with CCM I was on today. What makes sense to me is that the school is using that building at 298 Norwich Westerly Road right now. They're using it for class because they don't have a choice. The two large areas of the school are being used for the school, and really, you know, they've used it in different ways throughout the year because of that situation, right? So to me, you could justify the expenses at that building as part of the rescue funding. In fact, I would go so far as to say not just the budgeted numbers for next year, but from what I understand, this money is supposed to come through this year that you can use for any expenses that have happened that weren't budgeted for. So actually, it's our good fortune that we didn't budget, if you look at it this way, for 298, because even the potential for that 150,000 in utilities and repairs that that we are going to have to go for an appropriation on, we might be able to use this funding to fill that. So that's just a long way of me saying, perhaps we just remove that line altogether. The 100,000. I mean, we got 272 to make up, so I'm just that's a big one to throw out there for discussion. I'm going to motion that we remove that 100,000 from line
22.06.
2206.
On what page?
And by the time the Board of Finance meeting comes next week, I'll have more information on that. Because they're supposed to vote on this package in the next, I think by tomorrow, they're supposed to vote on it, which will give, you know, like CCM will have time to go through it and they'll know more about that. So I make that motion. You're muted, Bob. You're muted.
So you're saying we could add it back in if we had to, if what you're saying doesn't come through, you might have to get added back in.
I think we could add it back in, yeah, if we had to. Yep. I think absolutely we could vote to add it back in if we felt that way. I mean, we'll have at least guidance on what the monies can be used for the municipalities, and we are getting money, and it has to be used for certain things. And the way those things were described to me were things that we didn't budget for. So to me, that's something that makes sense.
Well, I'm just don't want to be back in the position we're in this year. So we're having things that weren't budgeted for that have expenses that we're paying for. So I would consider cutting it in half to $50,000. So we at least have some money to start with next year. It'll buy us some time. It'll buy us some time to get people in there if we haven't got people in there, or go for an appropriation ahead of time instead of after the fact. So I'd be willing to talk about dropping it to 50, but I don't know, I can't make that line item 0. Now, if you come through with some good news in the next week or two, that's a different story, but we don't know yet if that is going to come through. So I don't want to leave us high and dry.
All right, I mean, that's fine, it's a compromise. I'll amend my motion to reduce it to 50,000.
I'd second that motion.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. I only have 222 to get rid of.
Well, I mean, it's nothing but tough things we're gonna talk about now. It's already been tough, but it's gonna get worse. We talked about the assessor and the assessor's assistant positions before. Do we want to talk more about that? I did some calculations on reductions to 24 hours apiece and what that would do to the budget for both benefits and salaries and reductions in pension. And it is a substantial number.
I'm not willing, Mike, I'm not willing to go there.
No, I'm not me either.
We've left one additional per diem in there for the fire company.
Well, it's the same one from last year.
We've left the one in from last year, so.
And I think there was enough success stories with that one per diem that made me feel like it wouldn't be a bad thing to go to 2. I read where Preston only has like 4 or 5 firemen available, and plus a chief, and they're crying to get per diems in there. So I think we're a little bit ahead of the game because we have pretty good numbers right now. But I think again, that's one of those things when we talk about the quality of life in our town that we can't, I mean, historically, I have not been in favor of some of the things like the trucks in the 3-bay garage and so on. So, but when it comes to people, and as I said, you need people to drive those trucks and to operate. So I'm not for cutting that last per diem out by any means.
No, I agree. I think it's made a big difference for them.
I would consider, and I hate to go here, but as you said, it's hard decisions, but I'll make this decision over losing people, is I'd be willing to look at the library again. And right now we have the library in as a $25,000 increase over last year. 2 years ago, they were 30,000. Last year, we bumped it to 55. This year, it's proposed to bump it another 25 to 80. I'd be willing to drop that back down to possibly 70, take $10,000 off of that increase.
I would go for that.
Got a motion, Bob?
I motion we drop the library number by $10,000 down to 70,000, which is still an increase of 15,000 over last year.
Mhm.
Is that a second, Nita?
Yes. it is.
Further discussion? I don't favor this at all, and I don't think we've been funding the library appropriately, especially for the services that they're providing. So I understand that you're not suggesting any of that, Bob. I know we're just having a difficult discussion right now. I can't vote in favor of this. But.
Okay, so do we vote or do we bring
Let's
it to
vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 201. All right. Well, I think we're gonna struggle to get here if we don't make some even worse decisions. So the, I know that this is going to be a controversial topic, but I think I ought to bring it up. You know, there is revenue that is, we have a couple of solar projects that are pending. And we didn't budget really for the revenue from those projects because we didn't really know if they were going to be real or not. You know, of course, we were aware that there were some projects that could be forthcoming, but you know, one of them is actually now submitted to siting, so it's real, and we know there's one over by Lewis Farm there, and there's the one on Ella Wheeler that's just taken forever, which is the pilot program that was approved by the previous administration. Is there any appetite for increasing the building fees even further to increase revenue, or?
I think we're putting the cart before the horse because of the big meetings on Thursday evening, so.
I agree. I just want to bring it up. I'm not going to favor it either. I just want people to know that we were, you know, that's not in there. So I'm going to have to suggest, as much as I don't want to suggest this, that we remove the financial software. I mean, it's a big number.
And put open go back in.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to have something there, and I don't. OpenGov is good. I know that there's been criticism because some folks maybe they're not savvy with it, or they just don't really appreciate what it offers. But it's been a very good process for us since we've been using it. So I would just motion that we remove C347, 60,325.
Second the motion.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Nita opposes. I don't like it. And I think we may, that if there's one thing I would like to potentially come back for an appropriation on, that might be one of the things, because I think it's kind of foolish for us not to do this, but I'm struggling with trying to get us there.
It really is a shame, because the thing that we wanted the most was to be able to be partners with the school, and we can't stick with it. And I think that's a shame.
I think it would help. Well, we are partners. I think that's a tough way to put it. It's certainly we have a good working relationship. It's just it makes it difficult. This would make it easier, and I think anything we can make easier, because you know, collaboration is difficult. It's challenging. I mean, we've worked really hard as a team here, and so is the school, to try to, like, we've had a lot of meetings and a lot of work. This was something that, but I mean, for now, let's see where we get, because I mean, we have a long way to go still.
We have to put open go back in then, right?
Yeah, we should.
What line is that, Mike?
2504.
What is it, Christine?
2504 on page 6.
E504.
2504.
C504.
Nope. B25.04 on page 6.
All right.
Got it.
B2504. Thank you, Christine. Motion to reinstate OpenGov 13.3 B2504.
I second that motion.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Nita opposes. I agree with you, Nita. Oh, it's tough. But got to do what we got to do. What about the radios? I'm not saying we don't need them, but maybe it's something that we look at next year.
Where are the radios?
C-350 capital.
Mike, is that something that might be eligible for that funding?
Yes, the thing is, it benefits us based on the call I was on today if it's not in the budget, because if it's a budgeted item, it's not going to be eligible. So I don't want to make false promises, and I know that's really what I'm saying here, is that if things change and the parameters change or the funding doesn't come through, I want to be very clear. I don't have any guarantees of any of it, but that's what I heard today is some of these things that are would be more certainly more apt to be approved if they're not budgeted and they can be attributed to necessary expenditures, especially and they did say specifically fire, ambulance, and EMS. I asked that question on the call today. So
take it out.
I mean,
And-
we still have 100,000 or more to go. So C-350, I'll motion that we remove it.
I second it.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 300. Christine, where are we at now?
Wait a minute. Okay, so I've got general government at 5,278,389 and capital at 281,253. So we are at an increase of 130,823 overall. Because now capital is a negative, it's an overall decrease of 38,922 on the current year. And general government is an increase of 169,745. I need to step out for a moment, so if you guys may not make any motions, that would be great.
I don't know that there's many left to make.
Mike, can we revisit the charitable lines on B 2301? I had motion earlier to take $7,350 out of there and it wasn't seconded. Can we go back and look at that again?
Of course.
All I was asking for was to put us back to where they were last year, that's all.
Would you consider having that? In other words, granting an increase, but instead of what they asked for, or instead of what's here, move
Give
that
half of what they asked for?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I consider that.
So you make that motion. Well, when Christine comes back, we promised we wouldn't make any motions, but do you know what the
motion would be
number
that I would decrease the additional monies on those line items by 50%.
all right, and that's B 2301 through B 2317. Yeah, so
So the 25,000 with the $5,000 would end up being with 2,500.
yeah, and so on, 250, 250, 250, 250.
That at least shows we made an effort. I think that's good.
Okay. So when Christine comes back, we'll make that motion, or you can make that motion.
What I missed.
Go ahead, Bob.
All right, so Christine, I'm ready to make a motion. Are you back?
I am back.
All right, so on the charitable lines, starting with B 23.01 down to B 23.17, my motion is to cut the additional monies by 50%. So to give you an example, on Pawcatuck, instead of getting 5,000, they get 2,500 and so on.
Second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have $120-something thousand to talk about, and
Mike, can we look at on line B 34.071 wages for WEO? I see that's increased by 4241.88 up to 12,000 even. Is there any thoughts or discussion on that?
B 34071.
Yes, it's wages, WEO.
Yeah, that's that enforcement officer.
Mhm.
I would not support reducing that. That we took a lot of time in the strategic planning, and that was certainly somewhere that we felt was going to be a huge help to us. Trying to just keep up, really. We need that, so I don't support removing that.
What is WEO?
Wetlands enforcement officer,
Okay.
but they're going to help with zoning.
Okay, oh,
As well.
yes. Oh, I know who you mean and what it is. Okay, I got it. Yeah.
I mean, I know you guys weren't interested in this, but I'm just going to tell you that reduction of the assessor and the assessor's assistant is a substantial amount of money. if you were to reduce the positions to 24 hours, which is each of those employees working 3 days a week, and if you were to remove medical and pension, or not remove pension, but reduce it, if you were to do those things for those positions, that would save the town $91,000.
Yeah, still, I'm not.
I'm going to make the motion that we do that. Is there a second? Okay. No second.
No.
Revisiting the, I know we were favoring not taking it all out, but do you want to relook at the 298 and take out that 50,000 with the intent that we're just not gonna, if we have expenses, we'll go to the people, but we're trying to get a lease, and the leasee will pay all these costs. So why are we going to budget for it? I mean, I know we don't know if we're going to have a leasee, but you know, we've got a couple of months to find one. It puts a little pressure on us to make sure we do it. I'd motion that we remove the 50,000 that's left in that line, which is, what line is that again?
22.06.
B2206. Is there a second?
Mike, I fear that this is going to look like what happened previously when we hadn't put the right amount of money out, and everybody was sort of more unhappy about it. It's almost like we're doing the same thing again.
We would be. You're not wrong.
I mean,
I'm just kind of, you don't want to do that again. I mean, I don't want to do it again either. I'm just trying to come up with thoughts, and I'm not saying that there's no guarantee that we will or won't have somebody in there. Is it prudent to put a number in there? Yeah, it is, but it could put a little more urgency on us to make sure we get it rented out. I had a motion. Is there a second? No second. All right.
Mike, where's the ambulance line start? I'm having trouble finding it. I know we didn't talk much about them because I know they've changed the way they're gonna operate it at no additional cost to the town, but what line item does that start on, the ambulance expenses?
One line item there, B2612, it's at the bottom of page 6.
Thank you.
It's tough because, I mean, if, you know, they came in with a great proposal this year, I mean, and not even asking for an increase. So did you have a thought there, Bob?
No, I was just I just wanted to look at the breakdown, but there really isn't a breakdown.
No, they provided it to us with the backup when they presented, but there's nothing more on the budget. It's just one line on the actual budget.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Christine, this money, this amount that we're at now, which is just shy of 130,000, I guess, as an increase, right? What does that represent as far as a percentage increase on our budget?
So that is overall between the 3 lines this represents, which is operating, redemption of debt, and capital, it's a 1.49% increase. The individual lines are a 3.32% increase on government operating and a 12.16% decrease on capital. And redemption of debt is still that 14.84% because we can't change that.
I think we should go to the Board of Finance with it as it is and ask for guidance on if they want to look at a particular line item and give us guidance or suggestion.
Is that a motion?
So right now, it's just a thought. It's a discussion. I want to.
Okay.
So you cut a little bit more from when we had that 130 with the changes to the B23. So before you, if you are going to get a motion, I will finalize this round.
Well, I just want to discuss it before I make it an emotion.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
think-
Well, I mean, they asked for a 0, and my whole thing on the discussion of this is that I tried to be very clear in my request to them for what do they want us to do, because I don't want to go for multiple referendums, especially this year with COVID. I just want to put something forward that everybody's going to pass. And if they can't solidly get behind it, I think we all know it's important that everyone is really solidly behind this. So that way, when they tell their friends, it's, hey, go vote yes on this, because, there's a whole group of people out there that we don't hear from because they're happy with how things are going. And they don't mind that, there's marginal increases to fund the town. I mean, that is a true statement, but those folks most of the time don't come to meetings and don't voice their opinions. So I don't know, Bob. I mean,
And
Board of
so
Finance,
I watched the Board of Finance meeting, Mike, and it wasn't a unanimous decision to get us down to 0. There was discussion within the board. And I think that, and I hate to say, but I think sometimes when you say you need to get down to 0, it's, okay, so now we're doing the work to get down there. It's easy to come out and say you need to get down to 0. And I get that, especially in a reval year. The taxpayer deserves a tax break. People, and historically, when we've had reval, we've been able to roll the mill rate back, and I hope we're able to do that again this year. But I think we've cut as much as we can possibly cut out of this budget without further direction, if you ask me. I just think that's, I don't know. I just think that I just think we need to go back, and again, because of the way the Board of Finance meeting went the last time, it wasn't unanimous. And if you remember last year, when they gave us direction, we came back and they added a per diem back in that we had cut out on the last year on the fire. They added one back in. So I think that we need some additional guidance on this. We've worked hard on cutting this out. We've cut a lot of areas that they're close to each one of us in different areas. And I just think that we can't allow us to get to the point where the quality of life in town has shrunk down to where people truly aren't getting what they pay taxes for. So
Bob, I'm concerned that the things that might happen would be more likely that they would take away things that we really cared about. That's what, I mean, once you hand it over, having them decide what they want to pick out is, you can, I think.
Well, I don't, yeah. So I would just say, if we were going to send this back not as a 0, Bob, and I know there's Board of Finance members listening, and I know they've heard our struggle tonight in making these decisions, which are all difficult, and even proposing decisions that weren't made that are, quite frankly, incredibly difficult to even talk about. I think it shows we're doing it. If we're sending it back not as a 0, I would like to put the software back in. I know that, I mean, I really feel that that's an important investment for the town, and I only reduced it because I was working towards getting it to a 0. It's basically a net 50,000 or so cost. It's not something that, it's a capital, so it's just one time. And then of course there'll be some ongoing fees, but if we're gonna send this back, I would like to motion that we reinstate the software, and then we also remove OpenGov and send it back that way. That's a really, I'm not saying other things weren't important. important, but just from my vantage point and knowing what we're working with and trying to just have more collaboration, I think it's that important to keep it in there. So if we're done talking about cutting, I'd like to propose that we add back in the software in line C347 of $60,325. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
I just think that's just such a big number to add back in. It's not like it's 5,000 or 10,000. You were talking $50,000 add in, and I'm not in favor of it. So I would say no, but we'll bring it to a vote.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, and then I'd move to remove OpenGov D2504 and 13,300 from the budget. For a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
We've got to find something else. We've got to find something else.
If you want to, yeah, I mean, we can keep looking at it. I'm open. And if we could get it to zero without that 63, then I would even remove it again. I think it's that important. If we're going to ask for an increase, that should be in there. I mean, there's a lot of things that are important, so there's no win here. It's no win. I don't have anything else to add. If we're not going to, if we're going to bring it back with an increase, I think we've done I think we've done what we can do. So you have something else, Nita? Go ahead.
Well, two things. What you were talking about with the material that you've heard about, and I've been talking, I mentioned it to Christine too, that we're going to get money from Hartford, et cetera. And hopefully that's going to make a difference. But why not, tomorrow night is for the Board of Ed. We are not going to hand this to them tomorrow night, period. So why do we not let this be packaged right now so we can all look at the package again? Sorry, Christine, about that. And try to think of other things that we could do in that package and give ourselves until the end of the week at least before we make any other changes to this. How about that?
Well, that's fine.
See how the Board of Ed goes too.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I mean, we're going to present to the Board of Finance next Wednesday. So obviously the Board of Finance was not super happy that additional changes were made the night of their meeting. So I would suggest we don't do that. And I don't even know if it's appropriate because they want their materials, you know, they've been very specific about what they would like, the timing of their information. So, you know, unless you guys have some big revelation, I think whatever we decide on tonight is what we're presenting next Board of Finance meeting. Short of having a special meeting during the day, like on a Friday or something, which no one seems to want to do. We can't meet Thursday night because there's already a P&Z meeting. So, I mean, how much more? I guess, you know, we're going on, it's 8:20. We've been talking for probably 2 hours on this. I know where the difficult decisions are to make if we have to make them. I've
So,
proposed
Mike,
a couple
I
of
agree
them.
with Nita as far as getting a copy for us to look at over the weekend. No, I would say let's not have any meetings between now and next Wednesday. Let's present this as we have it. Just gives us a clean copy to look at it. And then we'll see what kind of guidance Board of Finance gives us.
Okay,
I think
that's fine.
Want to look too and see, you know, for example, we're working on the quarterly now. Are we going to make May the whatever the date was, the beginning of May, we had hoped that that would be it, and I would say that at the meeting, you know, at the meeting of the Board of Finance about that. Some of them care about that, some of them obviously don't care about that, but I think it would be a shame if we can't get it in. So Christine and I can look at the numbers again too. But I think we should look at it again. Yes, I do. But let's see
Right,
how that Board of Ed has been working like crazy to get theirs put together. So let's be crazy too.
Well, I mean, we have been, so we'll send it out so you guys have it on paper, and we'll just present what we've done tonight. So Christine, if we can get some final numbers to move forward for a recommendation to the Board of Finance.
Yep, so general government is 5,261,414, which is an increase of 152,770, which is 2.99%. Capital is 341,578, which is an increase of 21,403, which is 6.68%. So the total, including last year's education number, is 21,105,679, which is an overall increase, including redemption of debt, of 352,918, for an overall increase of 1.7% on those three, not including Board of Ed, of course. Need me to
All right,
repeat anything?
so what?
If you need me to repeat anything, I can.
Well, I think for the motion, we should make a recommendation of moving forward the government operating number, the debt number, and the capital number. So if you could just repeat those, and if somebody wants to make the motion as Christine states.
Yep. The general government operating number is 2,006,000, nope, start over. 5,261,414. The redemption of debt number is 1,382,949. And the capital is 341,578.
Thank you.
Somebody want to make that motion to recommend to the Board of Finance?
Only motion as read.
Sure.
All right, so I motioned to put these numbers, excuse me. I make a motion to accept these numbers and send them to the Board of Finance as read.
Second,
Second.
further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, are we planning after he does this that they're going to get it tomorrow night?
No.
No, okay.
No, they're not. No. No. I told them at the last meeting that we would not be there to speak on the budget at all, only to listen on the Board of Ed's budget. So we're not even on the agenda tomorrow night.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I trust
Okay.
all of you sometimes.
Well, good, difficult work, guys. So we'll go forward with it. We've got a couple sets of minutes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 23rd, 2021, as submitted by Bailey at the 5:30 meeting.
I second it.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from February 23rd, 2021, the 6 o'clock meeting as submitted by Bailey.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Lastly, I make a motion to accept the minutes to approve the minutes from March 23rd, 2021, 5 o'clock meeting as submitted by Bailey.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm just looking at the minutes from the 23rd. I think that the minutes should reflect when we came out of executive session. They don't reflect that. We can amend those. Let's bring those back to our next meeting. I probably got to go back and listen to the recording to just have that number, that time. It has an adjournment, but it actually should reflect when we came out of executive session. There's no vote to come out of executive session, but the time should be noted. So we'll make an amendment to those next time.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Pick up.
We'll take public comments on agenda items as agenda item number 7. Just so everyone understands, after the public comment, we'll be going to an executive session as on the agenda, and following that executive session, we'll just be adjourning. So you certainly can hang around, but that will be something we do on the phone between the 3 selectmen, and it's legally not part of the regular meeting.
Bailey, if you can go ahead and facilitate public comment.
All right. Pixel 3, recognized.
Pixel 3.
I think they've had their hand up for a while. It could have been accidental. I don't know. If you're on the phone, you'd have to hit *6 to unmute.
Maybe not.
It's been up a long time. They might have just inadvertently raised their hand.
All right. Charles Steinhardt, you're recognized.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Just tonight, I've been listening to most of the meeting and a little concerned about a few of the cuts. The first one with the radios. This was explained prior to actually putting the budget. We asked the town to research getting a grant, and we were pushed off to put it in the budget. So we did. So that's where it was. We had no issue with adding a $60,000 in for software tonight. I explained that these radios are unrepairable and we cannot get them fixed. We already have 3 radios that are broken, and these are radios that firefighters go into burning buildings with, and they'll save people's lives with, and their own. So $35,000, is a fairly low price to replace the radios that our firemen carry. The per diem thing, very disappointed. We had a committee put together. We worked over a year, give you recommendations, and you went against them. I'm not sure why we have a committee, but again, the committee recommended staffing and we reduced it. So, but thank you for your time tonight.
Brian Rathbun, you're recognized.
Yeah, I understand it's a very difficult thing to cut a lot of things. In my mind, I think you got to budget for the people that live here, not for the people that may be here. I also was disappointed about the radios for the fire department because that's a safety issue. And it's very much needed for them. I know if they come to my house and they come in, I want those firefighters to be well protected. And you put 2,000 into the land acquisition, and that surprises me because we got enough land off the tax roll right now. And you didn't even address, well, I mean, you did address the rec thing, but you didn't. I think you got to look at the programs and the participation. As I looked through it, I saw one of them down there. It said like 10 participants, and it was like $1,150. It's not much, but is it for 10 people in town? I mean, those are the things I really think we gotta, if the Board of Finance tells you to cut, I think you gotta really look at that. It's not that I'm against the recreation, but I think everybody's participating in this whole mess. Senior center, boom, you took 1,000 right out, no questions asked. So anyways, that's my thoughts on it. I'd like to see public safety number one for our town before we can have programs just to have fun. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Phone number ending in 3754, you are recognized.
Hi, it's John. Just a couple of things that possibly weren't mentioned or eliminated tonight. I heard you freeze selectmen salaries. I just want to say there's still an opportunity to freeze non-union salaries and wages. And I really don't think we should, based on the cuts you've made, radios being one of them, other capital items, I don't think you should be adding a zoning enforcement part-time position when when you're pulling out much more needed things. Believe that the farmhouse is in adequate condition now to rent it as is, and it is in much better condition now that we've sunk some money into it. I think it's time that we start collecting some revenue and give up on this caretaker idea and get somebody in there to rent it for $1,200, $1,500 a month, and quit putting more money into it and letting it sit empty. I believe the medical insurance is one avenue to reduce. You're including 7% increase, but yet have no indication from the insurance folks that's what the expected increase may be. I think that a 3% increase in that would be a safer bet and would provide more savings in the budget. And I don't know whether you still have DUI grant expenses in there or not. I don't know whether those were taken out. Is that 100% reimbursable grant?
We get it. It has an offset of revenue and expense.
Is
So
that
it's
100%? Is that 100% grant?
I believe so, Sean. I'd have to get back to you to be certain.
I don't believe so, and you have the same number in revenue as you have in expenses, which may be an error. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thanks. Ellen Posada, you're recognized.
Hi, it's Joe Casada. I'm on my wife's phone, on my wife's computer, Helen Casada. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I've been listening on to the Board of Selectmen meeting tonight, and I know you got some hard cuts going on. I understand your, your problem there, but I think public safety should be considered number one. It seems like this Board of Selectmen did not consider public safety number one. I see that, the Selectmen had this EMS committee put together and to, find what the best practices we need to protect our town for public safety. And it seems like they're not taking the recommendations from them. I mean, to cut that second per diem staffing, we got one, that's great. Well, what can you do with one? I've been telling you for the past few years now that you're in a tough spot and we need some help. So please step up to the plate. One guy's not going to cut it. So you need to support the second guy at least minimum, and hopefully the remaining volunteers that you do have left will come support it. But to kick that aside, and it's for me really hard to swallow when you're putting $60,000 for a software to do budgeting, but you don't want to support a second per diem guy during a game for public safety. I don't know. Can't understand that philosophy. Then you go ahead and cut $35,000 of the capital fund for a radio replacement when the fire radios is the lifeline of the firemen that are coming to protect you. When the chief came out and told you today or yesterday or this past year that these radios can no longer be fixed, we need to replace them. But again, we go spend 60 grand we want to put 60 grand back in for software. We want to give another 10, 20,000 to the library. I go, where are your priorities here? I know what the wants are and the needs, but let's focus more on the needs and worry about protecting our people in our community. More importantly, the firemen who are going through this with this COVID and everything else to help protect this community. It seems like we're not doing that. Again, the needs and wants are two different things. It seems like the selectman does not see that light at the end of the tunnel. We need to protect this town. You need to support the second fireman. You need to put the radios back in the capital fund to replace them. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and Connecticut Coastal Academy recognized.
Hi, thank you. I had just a couple of questions. Maybe Christine can answer my first one. In line item B25.02, there's I'm assuming that's mapping software for 8,000. And then there's an additional 3,000 in B25.03 for $11,000 total in software. It just seemed like there was a lot of software expenses. I didn't know if that was duplicated for a reason.
Those are two different services from the same software company. One is the annual service that we have to pay to have it, and then the other is the update to it.
Okay. And in C301, the computer expense is $16,000, so it's a capital expense. Does that go along with the software that is being recommended?
That's all of the replacement cycle for our technology for the whole town.
Okay.
Hardware.
All right. Is that on a recommended schedule, or is it something that could wait another year? I guess would be my question there, and you don't have to answer that. My other question is on B2604, the DARE program is being funded at $6,291. My only comment there is whether or not that has been discussed with the administration, with the school department. Research has shown that that's not an effective program, and there are substance abuse programs in place at the high school and elementary school. So I just wondered if that was something that maybe we should revisit as an expense. And Bob, I know you're going to be shocked to hear this, and my husband is not going to be happy. I appreciate the fact that we want to support the rec department, but there is a $4,000 expense for new programs. And I know they have difficulty filling the programs that they currently have, which are extensive. So I guess my question there is that $4,000 that maybe could be reallocated to something like the new radios or just something along those lines. So in total, about $22,000, possibly the $16,000 for computers, that maybe we could reallocate that to look at supporting some of the safety recommendations that were made. And those are my only comments. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Let's see, and then phone number ending in 9339. You're recognized.
You got me?
Hi, Jeff.
Okay. Hey, guys, I think you guys had a big job to do tonight. The only thing I do believe is that you work so hard on this, you get to see so many numbers and it's like the guy digging a ditch, he keeps going straight till somebody tells him to turn. I went through this and I cut $590,000, 507 from the selectmen's budget. I did review it with individuals with knowledge, and I think I only had a couple errors on the line item because I'm not up to what you do. I believe the Board of Finance gave us very explicit direction this time. Zero budget, with the exception of those line items which we have to maintain and the bills we have to pay. I don't agree with you cutting or freezing the selectmen's salaries. I don't want to hear the stories where everybody's hurting out there. I believe we got a $600 raise from the government. I'm looking forward to getting a $2,800 check from the government. So I think everybody's getting something except you guys are not taking care of yourselves. I believe that you've got to be taking care of yourselves, and I'm going to blame the Board of Finance because I say it's up to them to give it to you. I believe you deserve the thing for what you've done. The recreation things, I think we see a lot of numbers there, but that's all self-paying. The majority of that, the individuals who participate in it, they have to pay a cost to it, so it's nothing free. Very few items are we getting out of recreation that are free. I don't want to go into too many more, but I think we were given that explicit things. Somewhere, I think when we go there, I watched you guys do one hell of a job and you're all messed up. I wish you could have taken over and said to the public, is there any public comments that could give us some line items to do? I have some line items on there I would like to give to you guys to look at. Throw them out if you don't agree with them, but I think we're getting some help from the outside here. And I don't know whether it's worth me going through all this effort and not participating in anything, but again, your salary, you should not play with them. Those should be up to the Board of Finance. And I'm gonna again recommend it. You guys don't only maintain, but you get that little bit of a raise. That little bit of raise wasn't much, but no, and also selectmen being cut from the pension stuff and that. You know what's gonna happen the next election? I'll guarantee it goes back in. So we're playing a game. Today we take it out, tomorrow we put it back. It's something that was put in there that you've earned over a period of time, and that should be maintained in there. And I thank you guys, but again, I'd like to help some on this, but go at it. And I hope that you do good with the Board of Finance, but I think there are a couple more lines that you could look at, and especially the library. That should come back to exactly what the heck we had, the 55,000. I think they're great. I don't take anything away from them. But if I'm going to cut the selectmen salary, you bet your boots that's got to go first. That should come back to exactly where it was, guys. It's tough for you to make them decisions, but I think the public has something that can help you. And one thing I want to ask, so I'm doing this here. The radios have been cut, correct? That line item for the radios is cut for the fire department. And also the second per diem guy has been cut from the fire department. Yes? I
Yes,
just want my own clarity.
yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, Chief, I told you last year, take two or none. This is what happens. I'm all done. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, just to clarify, we think there possibly is some grant funding that's going to come our way. Like this week, we'll have some information about that. So may have an update at the next Board of Finance meeting about the potential for funding those, whether it's even through an additional appropriation this year, possibly. So I'll hopefully bring some more information to that. Seeing no more comments, look for a motion to adjourn to executive session for pending litigation FOIA.
Motion to we go to executive session.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
So I just asked the selectmen to turn your cameras off and put your on mute, and then I'll call you guys.
Mike, I'm gonna sign Nita out of this.
That's fine. And thank you, Christine.